In the midst of my browsing through drive-through RPG, as I occasionally do, which I've got a couple things put together that I've been planning to do a video on, related to stuff on drive-through RPG, but that's neither here nor there. But I came across this really interesting RPG that caught my eye for different reasons. So, it's a tabletop RPG called Loreloop. It is put together by Nevada Humanities. Now, when I was browsing around drive-through RPG, I looked at it, I'm like, okay, cool. It's like something from, Tales from the Loop or Tales from the Loop or Things from the Flood, right? No. Not even related to it. But based on the short description that I saw of it, so if I go, where is it? Drive through right there. So I can go look for Loreloop. So the world we live in, the world we create, a researcher recruited to serve a once-in-a-lifetime research called Loreloop. So okay, cool. It's initially what I thought. Then it's I dig deeper into it and it's oh, I see. And then I go down here, National Endowment for the Humanities, and it's it's federal government funded. Got it. So, based off of the premise, I thought it would be interesting to kind of flip through it a little bit since it's here. Let's see. No part, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of funny. It's basically funded by the government and stuff like that, but it's not Creative Commons or public domain. But anyway, I've seen other things that are more open public domain than anything, but yeah. So excited to share the game with you. Made this zine to celebrate Free RPG Day and get your feedback on the original in development tabletop role-playing games, blah, blah, blah. A researcher living in Nevada 100 years in the future. You've been recruited to serve a once-in-a-lifetime research project called Loreloop. Loreloop is the first of its kind, living an evolving portal through which people travel, learn, form communities, experience life across time and place. Let's see. So yeah, you can travel across time, space, meet different people, factions. It's kind of takes place in the 2020s, funnily enough. You've got small challenges, large challenges, apparently. Let's see, we're all participants in the world. Let's see, those are its goals, how it works. So this is the thing I'm more interested in. They've got their goals. It's touching on topics of travel and exploration versus colonization, preservation of versus dismantling of systems of oppression, building inclusive communities, resource gathering, sustainable versus destructive, recognizing, listening to, and revitalizing other voices and stories. What's interesting is you could have gone sustainable versus destructive resource gathering. But anyway, they had to do it weirdly. I didn't design this, okay? Let's see. Design of Loreloop was heavily inspired by The Twilight Zone, Star Trek, Stargate, Doctor Who, Quantum Leap, and classic speculative fiction by authors like Ursula K. Le Guin and Margaret Atwood. Oh, wait. We should go back to that one. The game is designed to be a thought-provoking learning experience, but there will be moments of levity. Atmosphere should be one of mystery, with players constantly wondering why. So, more of it's to teach. It's a teaching tool. Loreloop is a game played as an interactive, collaborative storytelling experience, meaning the participants' choices and actions affect how the narrative unfolds. Stories like this are also known as TTRPGs and share some similarities with board games in that they are often played by a group of people around the table. Wow, it's almost like you're putting this out to people that have never played a tabletop RPG before, but anyway. Loreloop players roll 20-sided dice to determine how successfully a decision is in driving the story forward. However, although an interactive story has goals and objectives, there is no win-lose element. The fun is how the story is explored collaboratively. You've halfway described a tabletop RPG, which Drive-Thru RPG is full of people that play those kinds of games. Anyway, each story in this series is designed to be played by a group of 3 to 6 people, 1 facilitator, and 2 to 5 players, but is also adaptable to large group settings such as classrooms. Guidance on this is provided in the full Loreloop gamebook out in fall 2024. Stories called missions can be played as individual self-contained experiences or all together as a longer storyline. Blah, blah. Ages 14 and up. Facilitate. Okay. If you've played a tabletop RPG, director's a game master, researchers are players, and yeah. RPG dice. Each player needs 2 20-sided dice, or D20. If your group plans to play 3 or more stories in the collection, everyone should have 3 20-sided dice. You may also want a 6-sided die and a 10-sided die for use with the random roll tables. But a D20 works as well as long as you only use the numbers under 10. Or you divide by 2. But anyway, if you don't have access to physical dice, you can use an online dice roller. Okay, clearly they wrote this for people that are new to RPGs. There are minimal rules in this game by design so that you can focus on the story. The main gameplay element that adds a bit of fun and tension is a 20-sided die, denoted in text as a D20. Throughout each module, the director will see in-text prompts for players to roll a D20 as a suggested number to determine the certainty of an action, or dice roll prompt means that the choices made at this part of the story may have a substantial impact on the narrative. Players do not have to roll dice every time they want to make a choice. Additionally, directors can prompt them to roll more often than what is mentioned in text, but too many required rolls reduce a player's agency, so use rolling sparingly for maximum impact. Rolls work best when the stakes are high. Each prompt references an area of expertise and suggests a certainty number. A materials check of 5 or higher. Each research archetype has 2 areas of expertise. Engineer archetype has expertise in tools and materials. When a researcher is prompted with a die roll that includes one of the areas of expertise, they can roll with 2d20 instead of 1d20. This gives them an advantage, a higher chance of rolling at or above the success number. When rolling 2 or more d20, players will give their director the sum of the 2 dice. Okay, so rather than doing what some systems do, when rolling 2 dice, you add them together, so you have a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 40. So I mean, you could have done advantage where you roll 2 d20s and then what? Yeah, roll 2 d20, then pick the highest. Easy D6 kind of does this in that it uses a singular D6, but if you've got a boon, you roll 2d6 and pick the highest. If you've got a bane, roll 2d6, pick the lowest. Anyway. See what happens when the players roll below a certainty number. In this game, rolling below a certainty is not a failed action. It just means the outcome will be different than expected, or the player may not have immediate confirmation about the path forward. Using our example, if no one rolled a 14 or more, the composition of the monolith would remain uncertain. The engineers may have a hunch, but their theory wouldn't be confirmed at that time. Do they move forward with their existing plans and take a risk, or does the group strategize a different approach? Goal of the dice is to add some weight, thought, and risk to decisions, not to punish players for their decisions or the dice results. An unsuccessful roll simply presents a new... I feel like these people haven't played a tabletop RPG before. They get the premise of a tabletop RPG, but a lot of times in a lot of the games that I've played, where you roll and fail a roll, and some of it, if it's life or death, it does punish you. In other situations, when you're investigating something, like in this example, it's like you don't know, you're dumb. It's the expected outcome. You find nothing. Okay, Director's Guide. A director's role in Loreloop is to facilitate the story and provide researchers with the information they need to interact with the story and make decisions. This includes sharing descriptions of the settings, location, and characters. Director plays an impartial, objective role. They simply present information and details as needed, but leave the story decision-making to the researchers. It is not your job to dictate the outcome of the story or force the players toward a specific route. We call that, in the business, we call that railroading. Consider yourself an objective facilitator. But I don't like what the players are doing. But anyway. And can only play as one archetype at the time. What if I want to multi-class? Here's how a sample gameplay session might go. After crawling through the dark underground tunnel, you arrive at the bunker's large, round metal door. It's about 15 feet tall. How do you like to proceed? Player 1, whose character is the Bio Ranger archetype. I remember what Dr. Marcus from the Desert Science Institute said, that the bunker could be contaminated with radioactivity, and I want to check before we try to open the door. Okay, make a field identification check for me. Because you are a Bio Ranger, you can roll 2d20. Roll and let me know the number. Got a total of 11. That's enough for you to test the door and get accurate results. Use the Geiger counter you found on the equipment shelf and find that the door does not emit radioactivity. Let's see, Logistician archetype. Player 2, I'd like to try opening the door. There's a handle with a lock, but no visible hinges, suggesting the door opens inward. You try to push it open the heavy door, but it is locked. I want to use my engineer kit to unscrew the bolts around the door lock. Make a tool check for me using 2d20. What's your total? Total of 8. Your drill runs out of batteries. You try to unscrew the bolts. What do you want to try next? Could I try using one of your screwdrivers to help you? Player 3 with the Spatial Scout. Yes, I hand Player 3 one of my tools. Player 3, because you're a Spatial Scout, you don't have the same expertise with tools as the engineer, but you can absolutely still try anyway. Roll 1d20 and share your results. Roll the 13. Nice. Together, the Spatial Scout and Logistician loosen the lock on the door, and the door opens into the abandoned bunker. What would you like to do next? I want to step into the bunker and look around for the map Dr. Marcus told us about. So again, there's no punishing in here. This play flow is pretty normal from what I've seen. Like, with the scenario that they're in, any other tabletop RPG would have done this. These stories are designed to be enjoyable and entertaining, but also thought-provoking. Content warnings are provided at the start of each module due to the nature of these topics. Elements of Nevada's history. Participants will encounter events exploring injustice in many forms, but not limited to sexism and racism. Wow. Recommend employing the TTRPG safety toolkit. Yeah, well. Please note that people, places, and events encountered in Loreloop are not intended to be analogous to real-world cultures and communities. This is a speculative fiction game that explores high-level themes relevant to Nevadans, and the research notes in each module provide context and insight that helped us craft these stories. Not intended to be well, you're going to draw parallels from somewhere. Preparing to facilitate your first session. Each module in the series can be played on its own or as an adventure path of interconnected stories. Before kicking off your first session, complete the checklist. Facilitate a discussion with the players about the group dynamic. Just following what kind of researchers are in the group. What is the name of the researchers' team? Do any of the players want to roleplay inter-party conflicts such as rivalry? Read through the mission module in entirety before your first gameplay session. Adventure modules like this must be read in full so that you have all the necessary context from the get-go. No spoilers that you, the director, should avoid. You need to know what can and will happen so that you'll be prepared for the choices your players make. Take notes on key details from the module. This helps solidify the story. Remember to take a moment during your game to stop and reference material before responding to something your players want to do. Your role is to ensure not to ensure a specific outcome or force your players to follow one route. Everyone should feel like their choices matter. It's everyone's job at the table to show respect and contribute to a fun, rewarding experience. You can certainly guide discussions with players, but it's not solely your responsibility to ensure everyone's well-being. You're playing the game too and should also have fun. That's interesting that this is included because, like, I think some people would be remiss to think, oh, the facilitator or the director should ensure that everyone's happy. But anyway, and comfortable. Areas of expertise. So the next few pages provide an overview of the researchers' areas of expertise, which also appear in Text connected to prompted dice rolls. Players use these areas of expertise to guide their role-playing decision-making, but should be encouraged to expand upon these with unique and original ideas. Directors can use these areas of expertise throughout the game to prompt meaningful role-play opportunities. They came up with fancy names for it. So you've got an Artifactorian, a Bio-Ranger, Culture Explorer, Diplomacier, what? Logistician, Metagen, Spatial Scout, Word Weaver, Dual Degree Wielder, 2 areas of expertise of their choice. More guidance on creating an original archetype is found in the player's guide. Interesting. Art, communication, field identification, healing, history, materials, navigation, tools. Those are your areas of expertise. So you could lump those two in different combinations, create your own class. Building a character, researcher in Nevada 100 years in the future alongside your team. You've been tasked with investigating the Loreloop, which means you're going back to its point of inception a century prior. You're finding, okay, so it's 2120, and then you're going back to the 2020s. Certain pieces missing in the Loreloop. Why has Nevada changed in the past century since Loreloop's inception? How can the future of Nevada ensure belonging and prosperity for all? What challenges has Nevada faced that may affect its future? Gambling. With your combined knowledge, you and your team will make impactful decisions about Nevada's future and will work together to close the loop. Your goal is not to rewrite Nevada's history. It's important to think critically about what you uncover. Consider the Prime Directive from Star Trek, which in summary means travelers to different times, places should not interfere with the natural development of these communities and civilizations. Which is interesting, because that's pretty much what you're doing. But anyway, your role is not to change what has already transpired, but to use the data and experience to contextualize the obstacles, challenges, and triumphs that led to present-day circumstances and create a better world moving forward. Designing your research. This is called looking back in history. They're just like going back in history and reality. And, you know, each researcher on your mission team has a research specialty called an archetype. 2 areas of expertise your expertise gives you an advantage when engaging with story, and your director will prompt you to apply this advantage when it's relevant. You're encouraged but not required to base your fictional researcher on real-life self. If you choose so, embrace unique interest, personality, and identity. Let's see. Select one research archetype from the list. It's okay if another player in your group wants to play the same archetype. You still get a chance to make interesting decisions, and no 2 researchers will approach things the exact same way. So we've got the Artifactorian, past human civil. Let's see. So they look at artifacts and stuff. Bio-Ranger is wildlife and ecosystems. Culture Explorer is the culture, so it would incorporate artifacts and things like that, but it also includes politics and stuff. Diplomacier, so it's like interpersonal stuff. Logistician, problem solvers. Metagen is for like healing you people. Spatial Scout likes doing mappy things, map painting. Word Weavers are the communicators. So, Dual Degree Wielder. Pick 2 areas of expertise related to your research specialties. Role-playing characters of different cultural backgrounds. Although the missions in Loreloop occasionally reference actual places and people throughout the state's history, the stories and circumstances you'll encounter are not designed to be analogous for real-world cultures and communities. This is a fantastical time and space-bending game, and you are encouraged to design interesting, unique characters with rich backstories. However, we advise against developing characters with cultural elements that differ from your own lived experience, such as emulating traditional indigenous clothes or languages as a non-indigenous person. Consider your researcher a respectful steward of Nevada and its myriad of communities. Make a character that you like, okay? They can their advisories are interesting in the way that it like plays off of each other. But anyway, each archetype has a researcher kit with equipment required for their work. You're encouraged to use this as a starting point and expand upon it as you like. Equipment like, what is your equipment like as a future researcher? Your role-playing is someone from the future, so that means your equipment may be different 100 years from now. Spend some time thinking, discussing with your teammates how your Does a logistician 3D printer fold up to fit in their pocket? Does the Metagen's first aid kit include a scanner that can instantly detect a variety of minor maladies? There's no limit to creativity. Add notes to your character sheet. Let's see. Smart wearable device. Field research kit containing the following: a canteen, rations, rope. Never leave home without your rope. Something to write with, something to see long distances with, and something to record audio or video with. 2 random trinkets selected or chosen at random from the roll table. Items with asterisks mean that the specifics are entirely up to you. Get creative with what your equipment from 100 years in the future looks and functions like. Document the details on your character sheet. Encourage to share items with one another during mission objectives. Let's see, so your random item options on a D10 table is bundle of dried Artemisia, pocket knife, small bell, art supplies of the player's choosing, set of gambling chips bearing the logo of a Nevada casino, musical instrument of the player's choosing, deck of playing cards bearing the logo of a Nevada casino, bandana with a strange geometric pattern on it, small satchel containing bird feed, an ammonite that fits in the palm of one's hand. I'd take the bandana and the pocket knife. Thank you very much. Your group dynamic. Okay, so how do your characters know each other? What is your research team's name? So they can pick a random one or be really creative. I like the creativity one. Come up with one that you really, really like. That's what I would recommend. This is where you'll write out... So... Or... Use the words in whatever order makes the most sense or sounds the coolest. The rule of cool is always valid here. So what I would do is these give good ideas, but they're kind of limiting. So I would personally just tell them to come up with a name themselves. So if they want to be the Blitzkriegers, that's fine. This is where you'll write out the details of your research. Get out your favorite pen and start filling it in. Researcher's name, researcher's archetype. Describe how others perceive you, including physical appearance, clothing, choice, sounds, sense, and other details. Short story, summary and backstory of your researcher. So they're picking a very basic, like, D6, easy D6 style character sheet, because easy D6 is a lot like this. If I go to documents, where's my books? Books, RPG, and then we go to easy D6. You can see, like, it's very simple, except there's no HP. Use the table below to denote your researcher archetype and area of expertise for quick reference during the game. Remember that when you're prompted to roll 2 D20 on it. Archetype, areas of expertise. Equipment. Yeah, very basic. If we go back over here, you can see your equipment slot, weapons, potions, things like that. Consult the player's guide for an overview of items in your research archetype equipment and select one additional item from the table to add to your kit. Track your items below. Describe how your equipment functions. Describe your Loreloop device. These are character sheet stuff, it looks like. That's a lot of stuff for a small character. Team's name. Research team's mode of transport. Notes about your research team's dynamic. Mission directive, a fracture in the Loreloop. Journey to explore the origins of the Loreloop is about to begin. Okay, so this is the first mission. So what they are doing, so you could probably apply Loreloop to any other state or area at all and ask, like, so, like, for example, I could be like, what is an element of Utah's past, present, or future that interests you? Consider your own neighborhood. Does this include a conflict, for example, differing opinions, perspectives, event in which a specific community was affected? What is at the heart of this conflict? Consider the missing pieces of the Loreloop: intention, language, justice, memory, community, and change. So if you're looking through your own history, then you do have that option to do the same thing. What is your role in the scenario? How does your action or inaction affect this conflict? Pretend you are a fabled quest giver seeking out adventures to recruit for your service. How do you enlist your help? And how addressing a conflict you've identified was their objective. How do you reward them for acknowledging their involvement? What do you hope they will do to solve or address this conflict? So that's the end of it. So that lore loop is, if we go back up to the goals up here, you can see some of the the bent which they're taking it to. I'll let you draw your own conclusions of what kind of bias might be put into it based on it. But it's still interesting nonetheless, because it's like some of the historical fiction RPGs that are out there. You could almost it's a lot like Tales from the Loop. You can build your own scenario on a real world area. So for example, let's see. Tales from the Loop has a lot of areas in it. So if we go through it, we can go back to the rule book, I believe. So yeah, role-playing in the 80s that never was. So the primary area you have in here is in Sweden, but they actually have a scenario that is based in Colorado. If I can find it in here. It's in here somewhere. No. That's not it. Is that it? I think so. Yeah, Boulder City, Colorado. So, and they have guides on how to build your own if you want to, and areas that you can, resources to pick out at the end of the book. But it's the same deal here. It's just they've tuned it to Nevada and given it some bias otherwise. If you liked the content, if you enjoyed it, if you think I deserve it, comment, subscribe, leave any criticisms you have or what have you. I appreciate it. Feed that algorithm, like I said, and I will see you guys in the next one.